Week. Let's talk TV for the week. It's On The Box on the radio with Chris Philpott from stuff.co.nz with his On The Box blog there. Good morning, Chris.
How are you?
Very well, thanks. First story today involves Julian Assange and a cartoon. What's going on?
Well, he's been slated to appear in the 500th episode of The Simpsons.
Oh, can you believe it? 500 of them. 500. Have you had to watch them end to end? Days, weeks, months?
It would be days, weeks, months exactly, and you'd probably be insane by the end of it. But Assange has been signed up to appear in the 500th episode, which is airing in a couple of weeks in the States. We'll be getting it around the start of May, I believe. First weekend of May, it'll be airing on 4. But it just was an interesting pick for them. They don't normally choose people like Assange. They're normally, picking music celebrities or film stars or TV stars, sports people. It's those kind of people, the really well-known faces that they normally put in the guest roles. Though they do have picked pop culture personalities before. They've had Buzz Aldrin was in one of my favourite Simpsons episodes, Deep Space Homer in the 5th season. They've had Stephen Hawking on the show about 3 or 4 times. They had Mark Zuckerberg on, I think, at the start of the 22nd season. So they do choose people that aren't from that normal, little ring of the pool where they choose all their guests from, but it's not very common, so it's an interesting pick, and especially in such a landmark episode for them, I think. Well,
and also because, he wasn't he touted by Hillary Clinton as, his American enemy? He was divulging secrets, so it's quite a brave choice maybe for them as well.
Well, a little bit. I guess he's kind of a controversial figure, but the Simpsons are always keen to get in on a bit of that, I think. I don't know if it's a big call from there. I just thought it was interesting, as I say, from the point of view that it's the landmark episode. You'd think they'd have something bigger. You remember episodes like the Homopalooza episode, which was a takeoff of Lollapalooza, and they ended up with Cypress Hill, the Smashing Pumpkins, Peter Frampton, Perry Farrell all in the same episode.
Yeah.
So to go from that to just having Julian Assange for the 500th episode is kind of a big drop, I think.
Well,
I'm a little surprised.
So The Simpsons is as American as apple pie, and of course the Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl, indeed, which was on Monday our time, Sunday night over in the States. And some interesting figures coming out about that. It was the highest rating Super Bowl that we've seen, or that America has seen. In America, it rated 111.3 million people, which was over 50% of the viewing audience on Sunday night. So it definitely dominated there and had the biggest figures that they've ever had for a Super Bowl in its history. This was the 46th, I believe, so that's quite a good record for them. But the other interesting thing is, we're seeing a lot where TV, especially live TV events like sports and like news, are marrying up with Twitter, putting hashtags in the corner of the screen and things like that. The Super Bowl was averaging, in the last 3 minutes of the game, was averaging 10,000 tweets per second.
Wow.
Which is just an insane rate. The last 30 seconds of the game, it jumped up to 12,500 tweets per second. So, I mean, we're definitely seeing that Twitter's being embraced as a kind of a conversational tool during live events, during TV viewing, that people are using, and they're going to it in huge numbers at the moment. And it's quite an exciting time, I think. Definitely from the point of view of, if you consider TV as kind of a shared experience, Twitter's making it even more of a shared experience nowadays.
Yeah, amazing, and amazing that they didn't get a fail whale as well. But talking about Super Bowl and of course that mid Super Bowl performance by Madonna last night, I watched on YouTube the 1993 Super Bowl performance by Michael Jackson. And that just totally blows away anything that they just saw this week or anything after Michael Jackson's performance. That was amazing.
Well, it's an interesting problem they've got now. I think, I'm no music expert, but I don't think that the stars are there now.
No.
Back in the day, they were able to have the Rolling Stones and Michael Jackson and people like that were huge, the biggest stars on the planet. And music isn't as big a deal now, so to get the big stars, they're having to go back and get people like Madonna and Tom Petty and the 2 remaining members of the who aren't really relevant to today's audience. I think they're missing a big chunk. But then they go the other way and get someone like the Black Eyed Peas last year, And I mean, that was just a travesty. Their performance, it was horrible. It was one of the worst things I've ever watched on a television, I think. So, it's kind of a lose-lose. But I mean, the debate over who you could get instead of Madonna is a long and very fun debate. I think whether you would go with a Lady Gaga or get someone like the Foo Fighters, perhaps, or it's an interesting problem to have.
Or some kind of cage fight between Madonna and Lady Gaga. I'd pay to see that.
People would pay for that, all right. I think 150 million views.
Last night on Channel 4 was the beginning of the third series of Misfits.
Yeah, Misfits is a really interesting show and one that I was looking forward to this week. With the being new season TV starting this week and next week, Misfits was one of the shows that I was really looking forward to. Are you familiar with the series?
No, not at all, really. I'd love to know more about it.
Well, basically, the start of the first season, there's this big thunderstorm comes through. They're all in sort of South London or something like this, at a community centre where they're serving out community service for various crimes, petty crimes, stealing a car and things like that. But there's a thunderstorm comes in, and the thunderstorm, there's strikes of lightning which grab them all, and it gives everyone powers. Superpowers. One of them can become invisible. One of them's now invincible. He can't be killed. Another one can read minds, and another one can turn back time. And the series has kind of gone on. By the end of the second series, they'd all given away their powers to a guy who can take powers and give different powers. So last night started off with them all discovering their new powers, and now one of the characters. I mean, It's interesting, the superpowers in the show, they're not really superheroes as such, because they're really just these, troublesome kids in London who are just getting in and out of a bit of trouble themselves. But they all have these kind of typical superhero powers, but not really typical. Like, one of the guys can see into the future, but only about 10 seconds into the future now.
Right.
One of the girls can see through someone else's eyes, kind of a form of clairvoyance, I guess you would call it. Another guy can turn into a woman at will. Another girl is now a rocket scientist. And then a new character who's joined the show last night named Rudy. He can split himself into two personalities, it looks like, so that he's two different people, but each one, there's like a happy version of him and a sad version of him, kind of. It's a really interesting thing. But it's a really good show. It's very much a black comedy and very much in the same vein as something like Being Human.
Yeah.
Or like The Fades, which is another really good British show that's been out in the last couple of years, and it's definitely very worth a watch.
And any similarity to, there's the new movie out at the moment with superheroes?
With Chronicle.
Chronicle, that's it. Yeah, any similarities to that?
I don't think there is really. Chronicle is a bit more of, these three kids get superpowers and then we find out what they would do with them. And, I mean, they do things like build Lego sets, and then one of them turns into a bad guy. The second half of Chronicle turns into very much a cliched superhero movie.
Okay.
In a sense, entertaining, but very much like that. Where Misfits is comedic throughout. It's always funny, and they're always facing these strange problems. Last night's first episode, for example, they came up against a girl who could freeze everyone in their tracks. She didn't stop time, but she could stop everyone in their tracks like they'd been frozen. And so she was setting them up by making them smash each other over the head with bottles and stab people in the stomach and things like this, just to get them into trouble.
Yeah.
And it's very entertaining. The stories all follow that kind of format, and it's really good.
Okay, all right. Well, what is coming up on TV this week?
Well, we're continuing the new season TV theme. So this week is even bigger than last week. We went through quite a few shows last week, but this week is even bigger. So I'll quickly run through them all. Tonight is a big one. 2.5 Men starts at 7:30. That's the 9th season. Ashton Kutcher's first episode. That's tonight. Followed by Two Broke Girls, which is a new show starring Kat Dennings and created by Chelsea Handler from the E! Channel. And that's followed by new episodes of The Big Bang Theory and then new episodes of The Walking Dead, which is back for its second season. I don't know if you've been watching that when it was on in the States. When does it start back up again? It's next week, is it?
Yeah, it must be really soon because they've had the trailer for it. So, yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah. And then The Shadow Line is it's a BBC conspiracy thriller on Soho, which might be a bit interesting. Tomorrow night is another big one, Once Upon a Time. which is the fairy tale show starring Jennifer Morrison, who was in House and How I Met Your Mother. That starts at 8:30. And then Haven, which is another kind of fantasy show, starts at 10:30 on TV2. And we've got Bones starting back up on TV3. Friday night, we've got new episodes of Doc Martin, starring Martin Clunes, the British show, which is on 1 at 8:30. Saturday is kind of a free night, so you can catch up on everything else that's been going on. And then Sunday night is huge. There's Mike and Molly and Happily Divorced, two of the worst comedies that I could imagine, start on TV2 from 7:30, but it's made up with TV3, who have new Paul Henry show, Would I Lie to You, starts at 7, which looks like a really interesting show. It's another panel humour show, just with people sitting and trying to deceive each other by telling lies, I guess would be the best way to describe it, but it's really interesting watch. And then we got House starts back up again, Series 8 at 8:30, and The Big C, which is Laura Linney's show about a suburban mum who finds out she's got cancer. That's at 9:30. And then Spartacus Vengeance as well. The new Spartacus season starts at 9:30 on the box as well on Sunday night.
Ooh.
So it's quite a big week.
And I see,
Monday,
luck on Monday, which we were talking about last week.
Monday is probably the biggest show, the biggest night of the week. We get the final series of Desperate Housewives starting at 8:30, and then Revenge, which is the new show about a woman who goes back to try and avenge the death of her family in the Hamptons, this really rich community. So she goes back and tries to cause some havoc there. That's on TV2 from 8:30. We got Last Man Standing, which is Tim Allen's new show. Looks very much like a Home Improvement ripoff at 7:30 on 3, followed by new episodes of Modern Family, and then we've got CSI returning. And then we've got Homeland at 9:30 on TV3 as well on Monday night. And then Luck as well, which is 8:30 on Soho. So that's pretty exciting. Monday night is a big night. There's a lot of clashes there, which doesn't make me too happy. But I might be up until 4 in the morning on Monday nights. From now on, it could be pretty interesting. And then Tuesday.
No time for life, I don't think.
No time for life. No, I'm just going to have to give life up. Maybe that might be the key to it. And then the last one is Go Girls, which is the local show set on the North Shore about the 4 friends going through life, the late 20s, early 30s together. That returns on Tuesday night at 8:30. So I'm looking forward to that one as well. That's a really cool local show and a lot better than it gets credit for.
Going to burn a hole in the couch. Thanks very much, Chris Philpott. Cheers.
Thank you.
And find more from him at his blog at stuff.co.nz. It's called On the Box.